Hello, my name is Nancy Young, and welcome to another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, a program highlighting the positive voices within our local communities and showing how they're impacting and uplifting our world one person at a time. Before we get started today, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Today, we'll be talking about highlighting your voice through advocating for our youth in this COVID-19 environment. My guest today is from Tracy, California. His name is Mr. Brian Pekari. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And my guest today, Mr. Brian Pekari, is involved at various levels with that in our community. He started almost 8 years ago, the Tracy United to make a difference. And from there, it's grown out to many different avenues for his involvement. He is currently the president of the Board of Trustees for the Tracy Unified School District. He is also adult advisor for San Joaquin County Human Trafficking Task Force Student Social Medias Team. He's also the adult advisor for Young Leaders in Action, Teens for Truth team. On a personal note, he is married to his wife, Laura, for almost 28 years. He's lived in Tracy for 29 years, and they have two adult children, one in college, undergrad, and one in their master's program. At this time, help me welcome Mr. Brian Pekari. Welcome. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Okay, so let's talk now about Mental Health Month. So this is the month that we're in for the month of May. And we know that today we're really talking about advocating for our youth during this COVID-19 period. And so right now, mental health is of real importance as this has been wearing on for many, many weeks now. So talk to me a little bit about your understanding or your feel for this mental health awareness that we need to be considering.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nancy. And first of all, thanks for the invitation to be able to speak about this subject. Prior to the COVID-19 stay at home, mental health, especially regarding our youth, in certain circles, has been considered, it is an epidemic. And it's a very broad issue when you talk about mental health, when you break it down in our youth. But now with the stay at home, and as long as people have been sheltered in, the COVID-19, there's so many more issues that are piled on top of it. So that's a big concern right now. We really don't even know the breadth of it. I think once we start opening up and we start really having physical contact with our youth, we're going to be able to get more of a feel for how this has impacted
You're the
them.
president of the
But
board of the
also,
trustees
the
for
parents,
Tracy
a
Unified
lot
School
of us,
District.
adults and kids, no one's immune to it. And this has been, when we talk about the global pandemic, how it has affected everyone. But in particular, what we're talking about today is with our youth and the students, and how to help them in dealing with them, as a lot of the distance learning is going on right now. And it's through the virtual communications like we're communicating today, whether it's through the Zoom or StreamYard or Google, Microsoft, whatever venue. But then there's a lot of kids out there too who might not have access to computers, and that's a whole different subject in itself, the digital divide, which here in the state of California, everyone's working together to try and eliminate that digital divide. But that's with computer access, it's with internet access, but not just internet access, it's having the efficiency and effectiveness of the internet. And just think, some of our kids and families who their internet access isn't as effective, and they're trying to do their education, you're trying to reach out to them to help with counseling or whatever's going on, and unable to do that.
You're the president of the board of the trustees for Tracy Unified School District. And so that's responsible for all of our young people out there. So I know there has to be a heavy weight on you as a trustee, and let alone as the president of the board. So what has been some of your challenges for over this period, this COVID-19 period, with our students, and not just the mental health, but maybe the connectivity?
Yes, yeah, making contact, with our kids and families. That's one of the big challenges because when you have that connectivity, especially with our teachers and counselors and everyone, uh, you have access to those families. And when you lose that connectivity, whether it's not having the computers or the internet, um, you can give, because we have distance learning going on, where they can get their assignments, but there may be a couple weeks, if that, in between that you have access to the students. So by being able to make that connectivity through like what we're doing today, that's a way that teachers and counselors and everyone can keep that connection with the students. And then even as we're going into the summertime, and then opening up school, we'll see how that goes coming up in fall. One of our big things is, advocating for our schools, our public schools, advocating for our kids, our teachers, our staff, and then also the budget and trying to manage that. Because we want to have the best education available, for our kids, the safest facilities and places where our kids can go to school, as well as our staff and administration and everyone as well.
Do you foresee that when the school year starts back, that there may be more mental health challenges with the students getting back on track because of the breakdown for the end of the school year, how it ended as far as being up to task for their next school year?
Yeah, me personally, because I still do a lot of work with our kids, and once we went to the stay at home, in other positions in my, what I do for work, I've been able to experience it personally. Being able to try and get access with some of our kids we had physically we were working with before, and we haven't been able to. We actually have, through one of the groups I work with right now, the Young Leaders in Action, YLEA is their abbreviation, and also they're called Young Leaders in Action Teens for Truth. So
Okay.
throughout the month of May, we're doing for Mental Health Awareness Month, we have a online series, and it's a panel series where we invite students, and we bring in some panelists, some adults who can specialize in the area of mental health in different areas, anxiety, depression, isolation, just to talk about these issues. What are they facing? Being at home, what's going on, trying to get them to open up. And we've had one so far. We're going to have two more, and it's every Thursday at 3:30. What we'll be doing too is we go in and we'll edit them, and then we'll be getting them up online so that we can continue the discussion, about what our kids are dealing with right now. And to your question, once we get back physically to school, me personally, I think we're really going to see, we may have students that, because of this time, uh, they may be different when they come back to school. We just don't know what's happening behind everyone's closed doors. Parents have lost jobs. Um, People may have gotten sick. People may have moved. Also, they may be living with other family members. There's just so many things. And for a portion of students just across the board, school is their safe haven. So
Absolutely. So a number of them, they don't have the outlet. I know when I was in high school, especially, I mean, all through school, just that social interaction. I had my sisters and we had neighbors across the
yes,
street, but, just I had a whole different group of friends at school. And so those are very important, formative years. And to talk to some of the seniors now, some of them are just like, I'm over it, whatever, I'm ready to move on. But they haven't quite hit that first year of adulthood. And it's like, I can't go back. Wait a minute.
yes,
You stole part of my childhood. But
yes.
it was things that's beyond, any of us to be able to
Oh,
control. All we can do is just try to manage
I
it.
think
Mhm.
you make a good point too, Nancy, because you speak of some of our seniors or even our students. It happened very quickly, and it to keep everyone safe and how quickly things came down. to have closures. So Friday they were at school, and then, they get the report on Monday, everyone's staying home and, haven't been able to go back. So we do hear that from the students that we're working with and the youth. They do enjoy through some of the distance learning when they do have that access to be able to communicate with some of those friends who they haven't been able to. A lot of them, through social media, they still try and keep access through Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, but there's some of their friends or people that are their peers that aren't on, those different sites or might not have access to it. So, yeah, there's a lot of different emotions, and I think that's one thing we're going to have to be prepared for when the kids do come back, is just to be ready. And I think us as adults, because we all are having to deal with our things as well. Everyone is. But, maybe being kind of putting their shoes on and trying to see it from their point of view. Junior and senior proms were ready to go. It was that weekend and we had to cancel it a few days before. They were all set. Most of them had their dresses, their tuxes, whatever, ready to go. The senior trips, ditch day, whatever it was, and then physical graduations as well. And
It
we've
was
been trying.
hard. I think that a lot of us probably, it almost seems like the parents and the adults, we take a little harder. Unfortunately, our children had already gone through that,
Yeah.
because they're older. But I remember those times getting ready for those events. It was
Yeah.
traumatic for some things. My daughter made it more traumatic probably than my sons. But the thing is that, there was a lot that I put in as a parent too. And I remember my first son got his diploma. I almost wanted to run up on that stage at West High and be like, this is mine. You know how much hard work
Yes. Yes.
he had worked for it. So yeah, so we just have to, be mindful of what they're dealing with. And I'm sure next school year, for those who have gotten behind, there's some free tutoring out there. Hopefully people will, get up to
Yeah.
speed. But by the time this airs, this will be the last day, the last class that you have on Thursdays for this online series. Is that through the school board, or where can they go and find this?
Oh yeah. So we're actually going to continue it. It's going to be through the month of May. The month of May, we'll be speaking about mental health awareness. But then what we're going to do is we're going to continue it rolling through the summer as well.
Okay.
And a lot of the communication, what happens is we have the kids through the Young Leaders in Action, Teens for Truth. They design flyers, and they're the ones inviting their peers to come along and get involved and encourage them to get involved with these conversations. The first one that we did earlier this month was on distance learning.
Hmm.
Why you should do it, from a student and a youth point of view,
Right.
because a lot of them are like, well, why should we do it? If we're not going to be downgraded on it, why should we do it? So it really brought up a lot of good conversation. But then with the mental health, when we were talking last time, a lot of the teens, there's so many resources out there, but they're like, we don't go that route. We're not going to go on a website, and look up these resources. That's just not what they do. So a lot of this, for us as adults, and we learn it daily, they teach us is, how do they communicate? How can we best communicate and be support for them and be on their level and supply resources in a way that they will utilize it, and they're aware of it as well. So the parents may be aware of some of these sites, but a lot of the kids, that's not the first place they're going to go.
But if someone is not in that strand of friends already and they want to just kind of jump in and find out more, is there a website that they can go to?
Yes, we have an email also.
Okay.
The email is YLIA at sow a seed, SOWASEED, C as in cat, F as in frog, .org. And
Okay.
what you can do is send us a message, and we will send the because we're using Zoom as the platform. We'll send the password and the ID so that people can log on.
Great.
And yeah. So and then also through Sow a Seed Community Foundation, we do have social media sites, which are our Instagram. We have our Facebook page and Twitter, um, where we'll post things as well. The thing that's interesting, Facebook, if you speak to the kids, that's for all of us old people. So that's where the adults hang out. You don't see the kids do not touch Facebook. So that's not a means for them. But when you talk about Snapchat, you talk about Twitter, you talk about Instagram, TikTok's another big one right now. That's where you're going to find them.
Okay.
Um,
Remember, update my game. So kids,
Yeah, I help because another group I work with, we do education on about social media and staying safe. And, these sites are all very prevalent, especially Snapchat.
okay, you're the adult advisor for San Joaquin County Human Trafficking Task Force Student Social Media Team. So since we're talking about social media, this is important,
Yes.
dealing with safety and everything. So talk to me about that now. So how can we be more aware of what's going on with that?
Yeah, so we actually have been on a little hold, through COVID-19, but we're just kickstarting it again because we've been having demand to do presentations online. So what it was is through the Human Trafficking Task Force, it's been about going on 6 years now that the organization has been in existence, and it has. You talk about throughout the county of San Joaquin, the players are endless, in the hospitals, representing the district attorney's office, law enforcement, the school districts, county office of ed, nonprofits, you name it. And everyone has come together to help try and combat human trafficking. So you'll see a lot of the people who are at the table cross over in so many other areas as well, whether it's with healthcare, domestic violence, you name it. But this in particular towards human trafficking, it is an issue that a lot of times people aren't aware. A lot of people know the movie Taken,
I've seen that.
uh, but they think also it's something happening somewhere else. It's happening over in in the in India,
Right.
in
Arthur was
Africa.
somewhere else, right.
Yeah, somewhere else, not here, but it is right under our nose, and it is one of the most profitable criminal activities out there. And you have guns and drugs and human trafficking. Sometimes you could find all three together, but you're finding out some of them, the selling of the human body, it could be a little gray with regards to law enforcement. There's a lot of psychological abuse that goes into it, physical that could happen as well and does. So a lot of manipulation. And that topic in itself can be a whole, series. Social media is used in like 99% to almost 100% of human trafficking cases. So we said, okay, how do we get the word out about the safety about social media, especially with our youth, and to educate our adults? So we put together, who better knows social media than our students? So we put together a student social media team, and we actually interviewed students from all throughout San Joaquin County. And it just so happened that Tracy High School, a couple of our students helped put together a presentation, which was the beginning of the presentation. And we've evolved from it since and have expanded it because the topic changes all the time. These apps, there's always new apps that are popping in, and new sites that are always popping up, and how they evolve and change. So this is our third year. We expanded into one of our other high schools, Kimball High School. A couple students joined us this year, and we're still continuing to expand it. But the students will educate parents on how to stay safe on social media and how to help keep their kids safe on social media. You know, when our kids begin to drive, we don't just give them, you know, the keys when they're like 10 years old and say, go ahead, go take off in the car.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of education. We have a certain age limit where they have to qualify. So, you know, there's so many times where we just hand over, you know, it could be a iPhone, which is a
Right.
computer in
Any
itself.
phone, any kind of phone.
Yeah, yeah, we'll hand them over and we see kindergartners, first, second, third grade, and they have the keys to the world, access to the World Wide Web. And I'll tell you, there are so many, um, there's people out there who are looking, they call it catfish, you know, will they will pretend to be uh, something that they are not, just to lure kids, you know, into it. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I
Um,
think at this time with COVID-19 that, you know, so many more people have so much more time on their hands because they're sheltered in place. And so a lot more people are online checking out things. And I understand there's different age limits as to hopefully what parents are paying attention to. But at the same time, high school students, you try to give your children so much latitude, you know, without hanging over their shoulder. But, you know, just to encourage that conversation, to make sure to pay attention to things. And with this mental health awareness, it's part of that is preventative as well, because you don't want to be stressed out because your child disappeared. You know, you don't want to be stressed out because things happen and you weren't paying attention. So what are some
yes.
of the things that we can do as parents that can encourage our young people to look out, to look forward, to encourage to be done during this, not only this month, but you know, as we go forward in life?
Yeah, and this is the thing that's worked into our students' presentation. They will speak to the parents from a student's point of view, giving some ideas and some tips. And they will say, you know, if you can, when your child just opens up an account, you know, be a part of that process if you can. Also, you know, to ask them questions, and it's an opportunity to open up dialogue. But you got to be careful, and the kids will say that. They'll say, you know, if you go and scold them and use their devices as a means of penalty and to ground them, you know, if you've ever tried to take away a cell phone from a teenager or a student or kid, you'll see how well that does not go. So that becomes a rebellion. So they, you know, what we can do is we encourage to form that conversation. And then us as parents, what I encourage, and I'm always trying to do, I'm learning every day from the kids they teach us and my own kids, is, you know, to learn about it, because these apps and social media is not going away. And as we see right now, this is our means of communication, and it's only going to continue to get more and more. If we consider it to be complex, it's going to get more complex. So the more that we can learn about it, learn about the world that our kids and our students are living in.
Right.
We also make parents aware that you don't need to have a phone to communicate. And there's apps that you can download and turn your devices into phones. So that's one thing that really opens the eyes of parents, like, oh yeah, I'm not giving my son or daughter a phone until they're, you know, 16. Well, you might have to be doing some investigating, because there's applications out there where they may, you know, already have phones, but they're pulling it down through their apps. So,
Yeah. So that's
um,
preventative, and that's good. And
yeah,
it's good to have information out there. And sometimes it's good for youth to be able to communicate back to parents who don't realize, hey, this is what this is how we see things, and this is what we're trying to do. And also at the same time to empower parents to realize
Yes.
the role that you have as protectors of your children. So whether they get an attitude or not, it's about their mental, physical, and emotional health. And so I think parents need to be empowered to know that they do have the right. They're the ones paying the bill. And so, and I don't care if
Yes.
my kid had a job and was paying for their own bill. If they're under my roof, they abiding by my guidelines and my standards. Of course, I come from a different generation. I mean, some things take a little bit more conversation. My mom could have just took a look. It's getting a little bit
Yes.
as you go, but we do need to take the reins back because mental health is important, and so we're looking out for the well-being of our children. But having that conversation, having that communication, and having those relationships makes a
Yes.
difference. So even though my children are adults now, because we've built that relationship, we have I'm able to still speak into their lives. When they have issues with different things, they'll come to me, hey mom, it's a suggestion because they're grown. But I can still speak into their lives because we built that foundation. So this is a time that people can take advantage of being home together to really help start building those relationships. And I remember I heard this one speaker when I was in college, and he said that, you're going to have to just slowly take the reins back of your home. He said, the kids may be like, you never said anything to us before. He said, well, that was in the past, but this is how we're going to do it now. It's never
Yes.
too late to start, doing the right thing for the right reasons for our families. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to me today. I really appreciate all the many things that you do within our community. It's truly making a difference and making it better than it was when you found it 29 years ago. So I'm glad
Well,
to have this time. Thank you so much, Brian.
well, thank you, Nancy, and also for what you do. And this is a time right now. We need a lot of leaders. To and we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of people step in where they can.
Again, thank you to Mr. Brian Pekari for joining us for another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young. For truly, you are making a profound difference in our Tracy community, not only for youth, but for adult alike. Now, if you like that website information one more time that Mr. Pekari gave, see at the screen below. Now, if you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young. And until next time, remember, your voice matters. If you have something positive to share and you would like your voice to be highlighted on Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, please contact me at YVMwithNancy@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the subscribe button right now. Thank you.